The next video that we're going to do is on a DC series motor, skill 2, reversing the direction of a DC series motor. Not much to add to this. I just want to show you what it looks like and how you go about doing that. Let me slide around here to the other side where I can get to the controls, and then I think what I'll do too is I'm going to move this camera at some point so you can see the actual end of the motor so that you can verify that it actually changed directions. So, you know, as you're going through skill 2, it talks about the setup and all that. And of course, we've already been there, done that. And so I'm going to engage this motor. I'm going to turn it up to around 20, 30% just to get it good and smooth. It says put an 8-ounce load on here, so I haven't really changed this from skill 1. And then, so what I'll do, I'll move the camera around so that we can verify the direction that the motor is turning. So let me pause this for us. Okay, so I brought the camera around to the point where you can see what's going on with the motor. So what I'll do is I'll slow this down so that you can see that the motor is turning in a particular direction. It's a little chattery there, but as you can see, let's just say as we're looking at this, that this motor is turning clockwise, okay? Now, you know, the book or the lab book talks about, you know, depends on your perspective on this, and usually you talk in terms of, you know, from this perspective, but since we're looking at this, and not to make this confusing, let's just say that this is turning clockwise. Now that's a little bit rough, but you know, I can get the speed turned up and it smooths out, you know, the direction is clockwise. Okay? All right, so we confirmed that. Now I'm going to take the voltage down, cut the power off, and he says, you know, observe the motor shaft, and we're saying that it's turning clockwise. Now, he says, we're going to go through the procedures here to reverse direction. And we've got two diagrams here. The first is the original that shows how we wired that. And the second one is the reverse connections. And you can see that in the original, S1 is connected to the positive, and in the reversed, the S2 is connected to the positive DC source. Okay, so let's do what he says here. And then let's observe what happens. All right, so let's see what should happen. Again, verifying power's off. So I'm going to reverse directions at the field connection here. So the positive now is going to S2. Okay, and the negative, I lost my train of thought here. The positive is going to S2, and S1 is going to C1. There we go, just like that. And then nothing else changed. C2 is at A1, and A2 is going into the negative. Okay. Now, instead of reading all this to you, so to keep you engaged here, we're going to see what happens now to our motor shaft. I'm going to put the main breaker on, going to do this, and now we can see as this motor starts to turn, now it's going counterclockwise, right? Now, something that our Prony brake doesn't like that, right? Because it's not hooked up to register in that direction. So maybe I better take the load off of this a little bit just to show you, you know, the direction that it's turning, which we would call that counterclockwise now, right? Okay. As it goes through. All right. Now, he says the Prony brake will not show a load reading because it's just turning the wrong way. So that's all that is. All right. Then I guess that's it for skill 2. Is there anything else? Oh, yeah. I'm out here. We've got a couple of things going on. He says we need to follow to go through the next part of this. So let me pause here for just a second. Okay, so in the first one there, we reverse the field connections, which is one way that we can reverse the direction of a DC motor. The second way is to reverse the armature connections. Okay, so I set this back up into the original configuration where the positive is back at S1. And so we're not going to change the series field now, but what we're going to do is we're going to swap the armature connections. Okay, so got to make sure power's off before I disconnect anything and make any wiring changes. And the best thing to do here, in my opinion, is, you know, don't, a lot of times these circuits are just so simple. It's just easier to begin at the beginning, so to speak. So I'm going to say, I'm looking at this. Let's see if you can see this. And it says the negative is connected to A1. Okay, well, I'm going to do that. All right, so originally, you know, if I looked at this original circuit shows A2 connected. So I've swapped that so that A1 now is connected to the negative terminal. I come, you know, A1 is to the negative terminal. I'm coming out of here, going to the negative, then coming out on the positive side and connecting it to S1. So it didn't change, right? Positive was S1. S2 is going to go to C2. Now, that has changed. And, you know, something that we should remember from chapter 5, it says since the armature and the inner poles, or commutating poles, whatever we're going to call them, are connected separately in this motor, the interpole connections must also be reversed with the armature connections are reversed. Okay, so we have to reverse both of them. He says if we don't do that, we could get severe sparking between the brushes and the commutator, causing the sound of the, like frying bacon. We can hear it crackling and popping. So that's actually the sound that burning ozone makes. So anyway, so I'm S2 to C2, and then C1 goes to C1 goes to A1. All right. C1 goes to A2, just like I've got it there. All right. Now, what we should see is a reversed connection again, because remember when this is wired originally, it was a clockwise rotation. So now we should also have this same situation where it is counterclockwise. And we see that that's occurring again. So there were two ways, right? Two ways to reverse the direction of this series motor. One was by reversing the field connections, and the other was by reversing the armature connections. Okay, so let's pause that. Okay, so we're back now, and what I've done here is I have taken it back to its original configuration. Main breaker on, power released. Then I'm going to turn this on. We can see that it's rotating as we view it from where we are. We see it clockwise, even though your text may say counterclockwise. That's because, again, it's using the perspective as from behind the motor. And so, you know, we verify that it's turning the direction that it is turning. And so he says, take the power off. And then he says, swap the power leads. So what that means is the positive lead would go to A2. The positive lead will go to A2 now. And the negative lead will go to S1. All right, so what we did is we reversed from the original configuration for the series connection, and we reversed the power connections, right? We swap positive for negative and negative for positive. So let's see what that did on the motor direction. Okay, and as we can see, that did not change the direction. Okay, so there were two ways that we could. We could swap out the field connections, or we could swap out the armature connections, making sure that we include the interpole connections along with the armature. But doing this doesn't change, or swapping the positive, negative, negative, positive doesn't change the direction that the motor turns. And that is all of this DC series motor lap. That's really all the skills that you would do. You've got, you know, a couple of blanks there, I guess, to fill in, but really all you're doing with this is making the observations and doing this with the Amatrol e-learning. And then the other thing, you're going to follow this with another lap, which is the DC shunt and compound motor, and that would be a different set of videos. All righty, that's it.